Sup nerds, I'm Tom.
I'm Wes.
And I'm Aaron.
And we're talking about Gunkimono by Renegade Games.
Also known as Samurai Dominoes.
Not the pizza.
So Gunkimono is an abstract tile-laying game, but in a good way.
Right. No, it is definitely... It's one of these things that's making me, question the conventions by which I itemize out my opinions on things. Because it's true that in general I tend not to like tile-laying games. It's true that in general I tend not to like abstract games. But somehow when I put these two things together that I don't like, I like it. Which is crazy because this game I like. Azul I like, which it's pretty much tile placement and it's very abstract. Sagrada I like, which it's nice, but it's basically tile placement and it's pretty abstract.
Six-sided tiles.
Six-sided tiles. It's crazy that I actually really like this. And now you don't need to watch the rest of this video because you know that I like it.
I'm not going to tell you what I think about it.
And Aaron hasn't spoken yet, so...
So essentially, it's kind of like an area control in a way. You're building these clans on the board, and the more you have grouped together, the more points you can score. So when you place a tile, you place it where you're not covering up a clan with the same type of clan, but then once you do that, you either choose to score one of the clans, or you choose as honor, and you go up this honor track, and eventually if you make it to the top of the track, you can score some extra victory points.
Or as you go up, you can unlock your little
you get those towers too, which are ways to score even more victory points by putting a permanent, every time this scores, I score. Or
every time I take a turn, I score with the houses. We're calling it an abstract game, and it's definitely a game where the theme has almost nothing to do with the actual gameplay. It's there, it's pretty, and everything goes well in that theme. But I mean, maybe I just don't know enough about Samurai to be
it works if you have that suspension of disbelief. It's we're putting together like you said, we're putting together these clans, and you have to have balance, and the more honor we have, the better things. It's it's a stretch, but I get it.
I didn't feel, even looking for that, I didn't feel that at all. In this, I'm trying to take over these areas and make this place part of my clan. No, I wanted to get the biggest group of colors together.
Yeah, it's like a giant Tetris-y, let's just make it this big blob of yellow.
But because it's a three-dimensional thing, that it's part that I really like it.
Yeah.
Is because it's not just, you can't cover up the same color, but also you can't be uneven. That's why I was there's a little bit of a balance thing, which is kind of a...
And to be honest, if there wasn't a theme on here, if it was just colors, I would not have liked it as much. Even though, Samurai theme isn't oh man, Samurai game, I have to have that. The fact that it had a nice theme to it definitely helped the game be more enjoyable.
You can't play a rebel on top of a rebel. You can only play a rebel on top of an imperial. Then you would love it.
So this game can definitely get salty later in the game when you put down these villages and you're scoring extra points. Somebody can easily just be okay, I'm cutting that off, and now your big group that you had is now down to 2, so you're only scoring 2 points.
Especially because you can split it in half.
In a bigger player game, I can split it in half right under your little tower, and then Tom could split it in half right over your tower, and this thing that was going to score you 9 points around is now 1 point around.
So it is fun to say that the very first time I played this, I actually played it wrong. It wasn't my fault. The guy teaching it screwed up.
You didn't read the rulebook?
He's hey, let me teach you this game. Well, let me read the rulebook first, buddy. What we did was we were sharing areas. So he put yellow is claiming this area, and then blue came and claimed it with him, which you're not supposed to do. But I actually kind of liked it a little bit. It's not great, but yeah, you kind of became clans. Me and you are whatever we do, don't block. We're sharing this, so we have a vested interest. Yeah, we're allied in it. Even though it's ultimately we're competing against each other and we're gaining the same amount of points each round. So it's kind of dumb, but I still kind of liked it. So even if you play this game wrong, it's still fun.
I definitely like the 3D aspect to it. The fact that you're building things up, and as you go, you're okay. Even in building your clan and not wanting to get cut in half, you can almost defend yourself by building up layers. Mm-hmm. And then you can't just put a tile here to cut that in half now because the levels aren't right, and you do have the little single ones that you could put face down
Like bolster.
to like bolster and build up. But it just, again, it adds that much more dimensions to the game.
There are times.
You got it.
There are times when it's like 5 stacked up. Like, if you've played the game enough, you know that you probably shouldn't let that happen.
Yeah.
But it's possible there's like 4 or 5 stacked up. And like, wow, we've all been ignoring this one. Because like, at first we're like, oh, we can't build right here because it's 1 square down. I have to bolster and I don't want to.
Yeah.
And then that problem persists. And then there's like 5 stacked up. And I'm like, man, I can never fill that spot in now. So there is a lot of, this game is highly strategic because those long game, you have to think long game about stuff like that because you can screw yourself over there.
Yeah.
You can screw yourself over there.
You can screw yourself over anywhere at all.
Like they've already said, the theme is kind of pasted on, but it works. When you think about it, like, oh yeah, we're taking over areas and things. I really like the decisions. I really like the decisions you have to make where you're like, okay, do I want to take the honor and move up this track? Because unlocking these little pagodas and getting to the top of the track and getting these extra victory points is totally worth it. The fact that they're kind of like randomized the amount of points you'll get for you could be the first one at the top of the brown track and only get 11 points. Be the first one at the top of the yellow track and that's the 15-point one. You just didn't know that, like, because it's randomized. While doing that, you can just be the guy that's kind of just cutting everyone off and just working on your honor over here instead.
That's definitely an issue that I had the first time I played it, especially, is I was so focused on just claiming points and growing my territories that I neglected these over here. And then not only did I not get these victory points that really are like game swingers at the end of the game. Like, you get so many of your points from these if you're all going for it. Not to mention if somebody has both of their little towers out there already and you don't have any, like, as they're still going up the honor track, they're still getting points every round, even if they're not claiming the victory points for that section.
They're called strongholds.
Strongholds, that makes...
Pagodas. Towers. Whatever you want to call them.
But there's definitely a lot of balancing the game as you go. And I do recommend if you pick this game up, like, the first player marker is a pretty sweet samurai sword, but go for the deluxe edition where you get the full-size katana. Like, it's so much better. And if things get really salty, you can just be like, ah!
One thing we didn't really mention is how easy it is for newer players to pick up. If you've played Ticket to Ride, the way you draft the tiles is very similar to that. Like, you have the face-up lineup. You can, like, okay, I'm going to choose one of those. Or you can just draw off the top. Like, getting the tiles is easy. You got a hand of tiles that you're working with. You're placing them out there.
Yeah, so you
like,
have very
central.
few choices because you just have the 3 in your hand. I really like that when a game... Ultimately, the overall strategy has a lot of choices, but when it comes down to your turn, you just go, this, or this,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I agree with these guys. I really enjoyed this game. This might be one of the few games that all 3 of us own. Generally, if one of us has it, that's usually enough. If 2 of us have it, it's almost impossible. We're almost like, come on, what are the odds?
What's the point?
Yeah, what's the point?
If I'm going to play it, one of you is probably going to be there, or I could just borrow it from you if I'm going to go somewhere else.
Right, but this is... I don't know. Like, again, because I don't love abstract or tile placement games, maybe this metric isn't hold that much weight, but I think this, Azul, Sagrada, and Kami-sama are like the absolute best abstract tile placement games that I've played. Those are all new ones in recent memory, of the newer ones that come out. Like, those are pretty essential now, I believe, for your shelf if you like abstract tile placement games, because seriously, I thoroughly enjoy this game. And hey, if any of what we were talking about here sounds interesting to you, we're going to put a purchase link to this game in the description box down below. Go get yourself a copy.
And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you'll never be bored. One other thing I would like to add is that it is really, we never even talked about how easy it is to pick up for newer players.